Chapter 7, Idun 1. The goddess of life. Idun, also known as Idun in Old Norse, is a significant figure in Norse mythology, revered as the goddess of youth, rejuvenation, and immortality. She is renowned for her possession of magical apples that grant the gods eternal youth. Her role is crucial, as she ensures the gods remain forever young and vigorous. Idun's importance is vividly captured in the Prose Edda and Poetic Edda, two of the primary sources of Norse mythology. In these texts, Idun is described as a caretaker of the golden apples, which are essential to the gods' immortality. Without her, the gods would age and lose their strength, rendering them vulnerable. Role and attributes. Keeper of apples. Idun is entrusted with the apples that are essential to the gods' continued youth. These apples are not just symbols of immortality, but are also a metaphor for the cyclical renewal of life, a core concept in Norse cosmology. Symbol of renewal. Idun herself symbolizes rejuvenation and eternal life. Her presence and the apples she guards are constant reminders of the gods' need for sustenance and renewal. Character and depictions. Idun is often depicted as a fair and kind goddess, embodying the innocence and purity associated with youth. In various artistic representations, she is shown holding or surrounded by apples, emphasizing her role as the guardian of these precious fruits. Unlike some other deities in Norse mythology, Idun's stories are less about warfare or dramatic conflict and more focused on the sustenance of life and the prevention of decay. Source material: Prose Edda. Skaldskaparmal, the giant Thiazi caught Idun and flew with her to his home in Thrymheim, while the Aesir began to grow old and gray. This passage emphasizes the direct consequence of Idun's absence on the god's vitality. Sturluson Snorri. The Prose Edda. Poetic Edda. In the dales dwells the wise maiden, the one who understands all herbs and knows every root. From her comes the joy of life and youth. This stanza from the Poetic Edda celebrates Idun's knowledge and her central role in maintaining life and joy among the gods. Poetic Edda, Hrafnagaldr Odins. 2. The mischief of Loki and the theft of Idun. The wind howled across the barren plains of Midgard, whipping at the cloaks of the three figures trudging through the desolate landscape. Hunger gnawed at their bellies. These were no ordinary travelers, but the gods Odin, Honir, and Loki. "Look," rasped Odin, pointing towards a distant herd of oxen. "Food at last." A fire was quickly kindled, and soon the scent of roasting meat filled the air. However, the meat remained stubbornly uncooked. A beady eye glinted from a nearby crag, and a booming voice echoed down. "Mortals," a giant eagle screeched, "it is I who have cursed your flames. Grant me a hearty portion of your feast, and the magic shall cease." Loki, ever the braggart, scoffed. "Agreed, foul creature, but fulfill your part of the bargain." The eagle swooped down, revealing a fearsome storm giant beneath the feathered form. Thiazi, as he was known, fanned the flames with his mighty wings, and the meat sizzled to perfection. He then claimed an outrageously large portion for himself. Loki's temper flared. "Greedy beast," he roared, lunging at Thiazi with a nearby stake. The stake, imbued with an unseen magic, became lodged in the giant's back and in Loki's hand. With a shriek, Thiazi soared into the sky, dragging the hapless Loki behind him. Across the land they flew, the wind tearing at Loki's face. Finally, his pleas for mercy reached Thiazi's ears. "Very well, trickster," the giant rumbled. "Free you I shall, but at a price. Swear on your most sacred oath to lure Idun, guardian of the apples of immortality, out of Asgard." Desperate, Loki readily agreed, sealing his oath with a grimace. Back in Asgard, he kept his bargain a secret, fearing Odin's wrath. Days later, he found Idun tending to her golden apples in the verdant groves of Brunniker. Her husband Bragi was away, and a flicker of loneliness crossed her face. "Lady Idun," Loki began, his voice dripping with false sincerity, "tales are told of apples beyond compare, said to rival even your own. Would you not be curious to witness such wonders?" Idun, ever inquisitive, felt a spark of interest ignite within her. "Intrigue stirs my heart, Loki," she admitted. "Lead the way, and let us compare these fabled fruits." Thus Loki played his hand. Luring Idun outside Asgard's protective walls, he vanished in a puff of smoke. In a flash of dark wings, Thiazi swooped down and snatched the unsuspecting goddess, carrying her away to his desolate fortress of Thrymheim. Weeks turned into months, and a change fell upon the gods. Without Idun's rejuvenating apples, their youthful vigor began to fade. Lines etched themselves on their faces. and their once bright eyes dimmed. Finally, the truth of Loki's treachery was revealed. "Loki," boomed Odin, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Where is Idun, the keeper of youth? Explain your actions, trickster." Loki, his head hung low, could only confess. "It was I," he mumbled, "who led her astray and into the clutches of the storm giant." The gods, faced with their own mortality, knew they had to act. A daring plan was formulated to rescue Idun and reclaim their stolen youth. The fate of Asgard and the gods themselves hung in the balance. 3. The return of Idun. The atmosphere in Asgard was tense. The gods, their once vibrant forms now showing signs of age and wear, gathered around Loki. Odin's penetrating gaze bore down on him, demanding a solution. Odin's voice thundered through the hall. "Loki, your deceit has brought us to this dire state. Restore Idun to us, or face the full wrath of the Aesir." Loki bowed his head, a rare look of contrition on his face. "All-Father, I will retrieve Idun. I swear it. I will do whatever it takes to bring her back to us." With his fate hanging in the balance, Loki knew he had no choice. He borrowed Freya's falcon plumage and transformed into a swift bird of prey. With powerful wing beats, he soared from Asgard, the sky blurring around him as he sped towards Thrymheim, the desolate abode of the giant Thiassi. Upon reaching the barren realm, Loki found Idun sitting alone, her eyes reflecting the sorrow of her captivity. She looked up, a glimmer of hope lighting her face as she recognized him. Idun's voice was a whisper. "Loki, have you come to mock me further in my despair?" Loki's gaze softened. "No, Idun, I am here to rescue you. Trust me, and we shall return to Asgard together." Using his cunning, Loki transformed Idun into a small, delicate nut, clutching her firmly in his talons. With a final glance at the bleak landscape of Thrymheim, he took to the skies once more, racing against time and the fury of Thiassi. Back in Asgard, the gods stood atop the walls, their eyes scanning the horizon with anticipation. They had prepared great heaps of fuel, ready to ignite a wall of flame as a last defense. Thor's voice was resolute. "Look, Loki returns, pursued by a great eagle. Prepare the flames. We must not allow Thiassi to breach Asgard's gates." Freya's eyes were sharp with concern. "That is Thiassi. His pursuit is relentless. We must act swiftly." Thiassi, having discovered Idun's escape, had taken his eagle form and was giving chase. His vast wings cut through the air with furious speed as he closed in. Loki, feeling the giant's oppressive presence bearing down on him, flew with all the strength he could muster. The gods watched in suspense as Loki neared the walls of Asgard, Thiassi's shadow looming behind him. With a final desperate effort, Loki crossed the threshold and collapsed to the ground, exhausted but holding Idun tightly. Odin's command rang out. "Now, light the fires. Thiassi must not enter Asgard." Loki gasped for breath, his voice weak but victorious. "Idun is safe. Bring her to Bragi." As the gods set the pyres ablaze, a towering wall of flames erupted, blocking Thiassi's path. Unable to stop, he plunged into the inferno. The heat and smoke enveloped him, and he crashed to the ground, dazed and weakened. Thor's voice was filled with fury. "Your treachery ends here, Thiassi. You will pay for your audacity." The gods descended upon the fallen giant with relentless force, striking him down until he lay still. With Thiassi defeated, the gods turned to Idun, restored to her true form. She embraced Bragi, relief and joy radiating from her as she looked upon her friends and protectors. Bragi's eyes shone with love and relief. "You are safe, my love. Asgard shines brighter with your return." Idun's voice was filled with gratitude. "And you, Bragi, are my light. Let us ensure the gods never again go without these apples." The gods eagerly partook of the apples Idun had brought back, feeling their youth and vitality return with each bite. Their spirits lifted, they vowed to honor Idun's courage and remember the lessons of their ordeal. Odin spoke with solemn pride. "Thiassi's eyes will be placed among the stars, a reminder to all giants of the consequences of defying Asgard." Thor's voice was firm. "May this serve as a warning to all who would challenge us. Asgard will always prevail." As the gods looked up, they cast Thiassi's eyes into the heavens, where they shone as a new constellation. This act was not just a celebration of their victory, but also a message to the universe. The strength and unity of the Aesir were unshakable. Odin's final words echoed through the halls. "Let the stars bear witness to the might of Asgard and the fate of those who dare to oppose us." Thor nodded, his gaze unwavering. "The gods endure. Our vigilance shall endure with them." 4. Idun's descent into the netherworld. Norse mythology paints a vivid picture of the natural world, weaving stories to explain seasonal changes. The disappearance of Idun, the goddess of youth and springtime, each year held a deep significance for the Norse people. It wasn't just a narrative, it was a reflection of the withering beauty of nature during autumn. One lesser-known myth, preserved only in fragments, sheds light on this phenomenon. Here, Idun is depicted perched on the branches of Yggdrasil, the mighty world tree. Overcome by a sudden weakness, she loses her grip and falls, not gracefully to the ground, but plummeting all the way down to the depths of Niflheim, the underworld ruled by the death goddess Hel. The description of Idun in Niflheim is striking. Pale and motionless, she stares in horror at the surroundings. Tremors rack her body, a reflection of the chilling cold that consumes her. This vivid imagery paints a stark contrast to the vibrant and life-giving Idun associated with spring. Here's a verse from the fragmentary Eddic poem Odin's Raven Song, translated by Benjamin Thorpe, that captures this descent. In the dales dwells the prescient Dis, from Yggdrasil's ash sunk down, of Alfin race, Idun by name, the youngest of Ivaldi's elder children. She ill-brooked her descent, under the hoar tree's trunk confined. Alerted to her disappearance, Odin dispatches a search party. Bragi, Idun's husband, the watchful Heimdall, and another unnamed god. They carry a white wolf skin, a symbol of winter's embrace, to shield Idun from the underworld's relentless cold. Their mission is not just to find her, but also to rouse her from the stupor Odin senses has overtaken her. Another verse from Odin's Raven Song alludes to the wolfskin. A wolf's skin they gave her, in which herself she clad. Though the gods manage to wrap the wolfskin around Idun, she remains unresponsive. Her refusal to speak or move hints at a deeper trauma. Bragi, her heart heavy with sorrow, suspects she has witnessed something terrifying in Hel's realm. Tears stream down her pale cheeks, a stark contrast to the life-giving spring she embodies. Bragi's grief is further emphasized by his silence. The once merry musician finds no solace in song. The strings of his harp remain mute, mirroring the dwindling birdsong of the approaching winter. Here's a line from R.B. Anderson's Viking Tales of the North that captures this melancholic imagery. That voice like zephyr o'er flower meads creeping, like Bragi's music, his harp strings sweeping. The myth of Idun's fall isn't just a story, it's a symbolic representation of autumn's descent. The leaves, once lush and vibrant, lose their grip and fall to the cold ground, much like Idun's descent from Yggdrasil. The wolfskin gifted by Odin signifies the approaching winter, a time of dormancy and harsh conditions. The cessation of birdsong finds an echo in Bragi's silent harp, a symbol of the dwindling life force of nature. While the complete narrative remains lost, the fragments offer a glimpse into how the Norse people understood the changing seasons. They saw the withering of nature not just as a physical phenomenon, but as a story unfolding amongst the gods, a story filled with loss, resilience, and the promise of eventual renewal.